Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, and I'm watching this stuff with a little bit of amazement. I mean, the Schiff is a congenital liar, so that doesn't surprise me. But the notion that nobody on their staff and nobody on Pelosi's staff said, you know, we've interviewed all these people and we ain't got nothing. I mean, it is kind of embarrassing and I think destructive to America to take up this much time, spend this much money, have the entire world watch this circus event, when the truth is you just walked people through it, they ain't got nothing. There's no proof at any place that Trump did anything which was impeachable, which is a very high standard, by the way. It's a constitutional standard. So it's not like we're looking for jaywalking here, although I suspect if Pelosi could get him on jaywalking, she would throw that in as one of the attacks.
Well, listen, I've been making the statement that if, in fact, Donald Trump cured cancer, he'd be impeached for curing cancer. That's how insane. You know, let me just explain quickly, because maybe you can help me with this. If you're a Democrat today, you have to care about the rule of law, but only when it conveniently works on your behalf. Bifurcate your brain, and if Hillary obstructs justice with subpoenaed emails and bleach bit and all that and hammers, then no problem. But Donald Trump obstructed. They're all outraged. They care about Russian interference, but they didn't care anything about the dirty Russian dossier that Hillary paid for. They didn't care that unverifiable document was used as the basis for a FISA warrant. They don't care that Ukraine interfered in our elections. They don't care about the Biden's quid and pro and quo. That is, we now know it's a slam dunk case. How is that possible, Mr. Speaker? Help me out. What's wrong with that picture to you?
Well, look, I mean, the thing I'm amazed by is that there are only two Democrats on the entire House Democratic Party. There are only two that had the guts to vote no about going forward. And you would think as you watch this drag on day after day, that somewhere in the Democratic Party, there would be some people with enough integrity that they would say, this simply doesn't meet the constitutional standards for impeachment, and it's an embarrassment. It weakens America around the world. It distracts us from working on health care and education and jobs. And the fact that they're either so afraid of Pelosi or they're so afraid of their left-wing activists, because I don't believe that there aren't 30 or 40 or 50 Democrats who actually know in their heart that this is just a profoundly bad thing, that it's bad for America, it's bad for their party, and that Schiff is such a total liar that it's an embarrassment to the country to have him as chairman. To think he's chairman of intelligence, which means that he supposedly has access to all of these secrets and all the things that we're trying to learn about our opponents. I find, having watched his performance, I find it amazing that he's chairman of the Intelligence Committee, and a really bad sign.
Mr. Speaker, he's lied to the country. You're right. I call him a corrupt compromise because his office had contact with the whistleblower. He lied about that, too. But he's been lying to the country for 3 years. We've got all the evidence to prove that Donald Trump colluded with the Russians. 4 investigations, including the Mueller report, no evidence.
Well, and I watched the other day, and I couldn't believe it, and I was a little surprised Republicans didn't go after him harder when he's explaining we're not going to risk the identity of the whistleblower, which implies that he knows the identity. I mean, is he going to defend every single name in the intelligence community, which is 17 different agencies? Of course not. And I think any responsible, honest person knows that Schiff must know who the First of all, let me remind you, it's not a whistleblower; it's a leaker. This person does not fit any of the legal requirements to be considered a whistleblower. And by the way, even the Whistleblower Act does not prevent people from being named. In fact, I got an email from a person who was a whistleblower, who was named, who suffered no retribution, and it just said that he's offended by the dishonesty of these people totally misstating the law.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Speaker. How does this end? Do you see these 31 Democrats in Trump-dominated districts in 2016? Are they going to dive off the cliff with this group of incredible, the Adam Schiff cliff that they're building here?
Well, look, I think that they are in a real bind because to the degree that they vote no, let's say they had the guts and got up and they said, I'm going to vote no. Every left-winger in their district and every crazed anti-Trump hater in the country would be sending money to a primary opponent to try to beat him. Mm-hmm. But let's say that they decide that they're going to vote yes. They're going to have an amazing number of people, and I just noticed a poll today that came out that said that they've been losing ground, and that now independents by about 13 points are opposed, it's like 48-35 or something, are opposed to impeachment. So if they're in a district where they were relying on independents in order to win the seat in a Trump district, they may be writing off their career either way. But I do find it amazing that they don't even pretend to be trying to find the truth. They're just hunkered down, hiding, sort of like a large collection of muskox, hoping that the wolves will go away. I suspect they must be very uncomfortable. And when you watch the testimony and you realize how often people say no, I did not see that. I did not hear that. I do not believe that's what happened. At some point, it has to erode the willingness of some of those Democrats to vote yes.
What do you think of the news today? You had a group of Republican senators meeting with White House counsel Pat Cipollone and Kellyanne Conway and Jared Kushner, and they said the White House agrees, apparently, to back a full Senate trial if the House goes through with this.
Well, I've always thought it would be, frankly, very educational to have a full Senate trial. You could start by calling in Hunter Biden.
Exactly. Then Adam Schiff's staff, if you can't call him in.
Adam Schiff's staff. And you go down the list of everybody
the whistleblower.
that Nunes wanted to have come in. You would obviously call in the whistleblower. Frankly, given what we know of the kind of vicious anti-Trump texts from the whistleblower's lawyer, they ought to call the lawyer in. I mean, here's a guy who,
10 days.
As early as February of last year, was saying, the coup.
It was 10 days after the president was inaugurated, sir. 10 days.
10, right. So, and he used the word coup.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about
amazing.
That. It is. So I actually think it would be very educational for the country to have Lindsey Graham leading honest and allowing the Democrats all the questions they wanted, and be a genuine, serious review of all the information. Now, it also poses a big question for the Democratic senators running for president, since all this would be occurring as they should be focusing on Iowa and New Hampshire. Do they, in fact, do their job and stay as members of the Senate as a jury?
Aren't they required to?
They go? Well, they're not. Look, I mean, they're not required to. The Senate. What are you going to do? Sanction them?
Oh, by the way, I'm in favor of Congress, the House, and Senate being off every day of the year.
Well, the former
because it's going to say they do less damage that way. Maybe come back every 5 years, do a budget, and leave. Stay right there. Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. By the way, his book is out, Trump versus China, Facing America's Greatest Threat. It's a bestseller. All right, as we roll along, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich with us, Lindsey Graham at the top of the hour. A lot of news he's making. All right, so what do you think happens from here out? Do you think they do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're so out on a limb now that their base would destroy them if they didn't do it. So I'm assuming they'll force through a vote, and I'm assuming that Pelosi can get virtually all the Democrats to vote yes. My hunch is, but I was with the Republican leadership in the House on Monday or on Tuesday for a great event when they unveiled the portrait of former Speaker John Boehner, and I was talking with them, and they didn't think they'll lose a single Republican. They think this has totally failed to convince anybody.
Even in the House, you think? I'm sorry, even in the Senate? Yeah. Even Mitt Romney?
I'm starting in the House. Well, I don't think you lose Romney by himself. I think it's almost psychologically impossible in a legislative body on an issue this big. You have to have, I think, 4 or 5 people come together on something like this to be able to do that. And since there's no possibility, and I mean literally to the best of my knowledge, no possibility that the Senate would ever convict, because that would take, I think, 20-some Republicans. I think that the odds are the party just pulls together. There's a poll in Iowa that just came out in the Des Moines Register a couple of days ago that in Iowa, 94% of the Republicans would vote for Trump. Now, what that says to me is he's actually more popular than Ronald Reagan was among Republicans. He doesn't have Reagan's reach yet among independents, but he's doing very well among Republicans.
Well, I got to tell you, Wisconsin, he's up winning there. If you look at other election data, you see that the president, every poll I've seen come out now today, shows that the president's approval ratings have gone up. And I don't think this is going to change. I think the backfiring has begun. They gave it their best shot, and there was no quid pro quo. This blew up in their face. They thought they had him. They don't. It's another congenital liar, compromise, shift, witch hunt. And I got to tell you, if it ends badly, it's bad for the country. But, Mr. Speaker, thank you. We love having you back. All right.